this news is huge. Now, Devin Nunes, the former House Intel Committee chairman, now the ranking member, filed a lawsuit against Fusion GPS. How is it possible the special counsel never knew? How is that? It's unbelievable to me. You know, he didn't remember what Fusion GPS is, like he never knew that Jeannie Ray, one of the lead investigators right up there with the corrupt Andrew Weissman himself, that Jeannie Ray worked for the Clinton Foundation as her lawyer. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay. Everyone else in the free world that has been following this story knows that Fusion GPS, that was the firm that was paid for by a law firm called Perkins Coie with money that was funneled by the Clinton campaign. And then Fusion GPS hired Christopher Steele, who created the dirty Russian dossier that all turns out to be false. That, of course, was used to bludgeon Trump and spy on Carter Page and backdoor into the whole Trump campaign transition and then presidency. And according to all of this, you know, and remember, it was used as the bulk of information, to quote the Grassley-Graham memo, for the FISA applications, all four of them, three of which were signed by Jim Comey. And according to this lawsuit of Devin Nunes, Fusion GPS tried to impede, derail his investigation into the dirty dossier. And Congressman Nunes joins us now. Congressman, thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time. It's a nearly $10 million suit, $9.9 million suit. Tell us the nature of this.
Well, Sean, I think you and everyone else knows that followed this closely. You knew what Fusion GPS was doing to me and to others. And this is part of the cleanup. And people get frustrated that nothing's happened yet. But remember, you had the entire intelligence apparatus taken over by the Obama and Clinton regime, and this stuff is not easy to fix. So and part of what we have to do, and on your show last night, you had on Jay Sekulow, you talked about what Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch is doing. People who are able to get the third branch of government, the judicial branch of government, have to stand up and do it, because you have to fight a war on all fronts. That's one of the problems that I think we've had in the Republican Party and the conservative movement is, you know, you just expect like one person to be able to shoot, fire, aim, and be done with the war. But the left in this country is more energized than ever before. They control so much of our economy, whether it's the universities, the school system. They've done a lot to invest into district attorneys and throughout the United States. They own most of, if not almost all, the media. So they own the tech oligarchs own all the platforms. I can go on and on. And so, you know, just expecting, you know, Devin Nunes or Lindsey Graham or Chuck Grassley, you know, just to work through the legislative branch of government when we don't even control the House anymore, you're just fighting with both hands behind your back. So, you know darn well what Fusion GPS was doing. They fought to stop us from getting a hold of their bank records, which, you know, then led us directly to the Clinton campaign. The Clinton campaign was behind the Steele dossier. And these guys have a long history of smearing people for a living. It's what they do. And so what we're now doing is we're going through and we're cleaning up. It's not okay to obstruct justice. It's not okay to file phony charges against a congressman, and that was, in my case, it was me, no less the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, who's running an investigation into you.
Well, didn't that also cost you money? I mean, now financially, when they do that, that prevents you from doing your job. That helps derail your investigation. Now you have to defend yourself against these reckless charges, but these charges are basically designed to keep you busy and stop you from doing your work. Isn't that your point?
That's exactly right. So this is under the RICO statute. So remember, the RICO laws were passed because of the mafia. And really, if you think about it, Fusion GPS is no different. I mean, they are a racketeering outfit. They do a lot of bad things. They work with others, and so we're suing them and one of these AstroTurf groups that, you know, in the name of good government, it's called Campaign for Accountability. Sounds really nice, except it's made of a bunch of former Clinton and Obama people. They bring in dark money, and then they work with people like Fusion GPS. So in this case, Campaign for Accountability paid $140,000 in 2018 to Fusion GPS. And then just so happens that Campaign for Accountability files 3 ethics complaints against me. And so, like you said, I have legal bills. I had to pay legal bills. I had to fight all of these. I'm still fighting them, by the way. I mean, it never stops. And so the only way to fight these guys is you got to stand up. You have to go to the judicial branch of government. We have laws in place, and hopefully the Eastern District of Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., hopefully we will get a good judge that wants to do justice, because we're not going to clean. Everybody complains about how dirty politics is today, and it is way dirtier than I've ever seen in my whole career. I've never experienced anything like this. Granted, I've been in the middle of the hurricane, but this is not the way the United States, the leader of the free world, this is not the way our government is supposed to function. And when you have racketeering outfits like Fusion GPS out there smearing people, whether it's the Trump campaign, Bill Browder, working with shady Venezuelan oil companies, or taking on congressmen who are investigating them, it's not acceptable, and it needs to be stopped. The laws are in place, and the courts can do it. And that's what I'm aiming to do. I'm aiming to, they need to be shut down. Just like the mafia was shut down, Fusion GPS needs to be shut down. And so
let me ask you this.
Dark money groups.
What does it mean to you when you heard that testimony of Bob Mueller? He doesn't know what Fusion GPS is. How does he not know Jeannie Ray is on his staff? That is a spectacular fail to me, just like we did have Russian interference. The New York Times now even finally, they're a little late, but they recognize that the dossier was likely Russian disinformation from the beginning, meaning that the Russians knew that Hillary was paying for it, and the Russians knew that she'd use it for the campaign, which kind of convinces me in a lot of ways that it was more likely that they wanted her to win, considering they knew how damaging that dirty dossier would be, full of misinformation or disinformation.
Well, look, there's no question that this whole idea, let's just start with this. The idea that it's new that the Russians or the Soviets before them were not involved in our elections, like this was just something new. The only reason that this is now being talked about is because Hillary Clinton lost. They wanted to use it to dirty up Trump during the 2016 election. It failed. It was a joke. You remember, Hillary Clinton's campaign was mimicking or echoing the Steele dossier starting in May, June, July, August of 2000, all the way through 2016. You had leaks of investigations, remember? And I was overseeing this, and at the time I'm like, I just thought it was fake news. I mean, I just didn't believe that our counterintelligence capabilities would be investigating a campaign. So when those stories leaked out in October, it was clearly designed to derail the Trump campaign. But just to close up with this, Sean, the Soviets did this all through the Cold War. Putin never stopped. It happens all the time. Other countries do this to us. And so this was the most successful operation the Russians or the Soviet Union ever ran, mainly because of the media working with their allies, the Democratic Party.
It's sad all of this has happened. What did you make of the ACLJ's lawsuit by Jay Sekulow against the FBI over, a FOIA request and a suit regarding Comey's spies in the White House? They're giving specific names, and they were reporting back to Comey. Now, remember, I think it's important to remind our audience, it gets complicated at different times, that Comey told Trump in January at Trump Tower, before he was sworn in as president, he said to him, yeah, we have this dossier. It's salacious, but it's unverified. But he signed off on the first FISA application and then subsequently 2 renewal applications that he claims that it was verified because that was the bulk of information. So Comey is a liar. There's no other way to put it. He's lied. He's lied repeatedly. But what did you think about the idea? And he says he doesn't spy. Well, the FOIA, the FISA that he signed off on was to spy. Just like having 2 people in Trump's White House to spy on the president. What does that say to you, and what does that mean to you?
So remember, this is why what I started with is we have to bring lawsuits and get the third branch of government, the judicial branch of government, involved at every step. So wherever we see wrongdoing, we have to target it. So there's plenty of what I would call circumstantial evidence out there that people were placed within the White House. Okay, there's plenty of examples of that, which we don't need to get into now. But you have to you just have to go back and remember that this was, when you look at what they did with the dossier, this is why they tried so hard to cover it up. This is why they tried to stop what we did on the House Intelligence Committee, the Republicans. This is why these ethics charges were filed. And don't forget, Comey's little friends that are out there in the little blogosphere, they were echoing what Fusion GPS was saying about me and my colleagues, okay? So they planted the stories, they planted the fake, phony ethics complaints, and then they would magnify them. Why did they do that? See, they wanted to run a counterintelligence investigation because they figured that there was the only people that could get to it would be the House or Senate Intelligence Committee, and they figured we would never be able to get to it because it would be too hard. And as you remember, that's why we had to fight to get the bank records. That's why we had to fight to get the FISA documents released. That's why we had to use a rule that had not been used, had been put in place in the 1970s when the intelligence committees were created after Watergate. That's what we used to put out what was now the infamous Nunes memo. That was because for a year we had to sit on the fact that we knew they had used that dirty dossier.
And you couldn't tell me. Listen, I used to ask you, you wouldn't tell me. And to your credit, you follow the rules and you're not allowed to. But I would ask you questions like, am I over the target, Congressman? And you say, yeah, you usually, you never said to me I wasn't. Stay right there. Devin Nunes filing a racketeering lawsuit against Fusion GPS. All right, as we continue, Congressman Devin Nunes, he has filed a racketeering lawsuit against Fusion GPS. Yeah, that's the same group that hired, of course, using Hillary's money, funneled money through a law firm and hired Christopher Steele, who put together the dirty, lying Russian dossier that was used to spy on Trump, Carter Page, and bludgeon and try and undo a duly elected presidency. Where is this going? We expect the FISA, Inspector General's FISA report, but even more importantly, perhaps than that, we have the Durham report on whether or not intelligence was outsourced to allied nations for the purpose of circumventing American law. Do you believe the people involved in this will be held accountable?
Well, look, I do, but it means that people have to maintain competence, and we have to stay on the attack. It's like what I said in the last segment, Sean. This is not just one or two people that have to just just stand up and take a couple shots and the war is over. You have to fight these battles on every single front. And that's the only way that we're going to win and bring accountability. So the way that I see this playing out is you had the Comey report come out from the Inspector General. The Inspector General is going to come out with this FISA report. And remember, I've always cautioned people about the Inspector Generals. Not that I don't like them, but they have limited power. They don't have subpoena power. They can't go out and get people from the outside to testify. So they're doing really good work, but no one should take that as the end-all, be-all. So, the information that came out on Comey, critical information.
But there's a lot more coming. I only have to cut you short. You do believe that people will be held accountable here? That's my last question, and I got to run.
I do, Sean, because I believe that you'll have the Inspector General report, and then you'll have Durham's report. And what we really have to, Durham's going to probably do a report, but quite possibly and hopefully he convenes a grand jury. And when a grand jury is convened, then watch out, because then they're going to be looking at the criminal referrals, the 8 criminal referrals that we sent them, and likely the RICOs, similar like the RICO case that I filed, it's very possible they could bring a RICO charge against many of these players.
All right, Congressman Devin Nunes, and I got to give you all credit. You have been unrelenting in the search for truth here. There weren't many of you, and Jim Jordan, Devin Nunes, Matt Gaetz, Doug Collins. I'm going to forget other guys. Ratcliffe. I just too many, but very few in regards to what this story means to the country and getting this right. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it, Congressman.
Thanks a lot, Sean, and thanks for all you and your show and everybody's been doing to continue this.